Good evening and welcome. Today we are back on Sundays. Last week we were not doing a Sunday session because of the Ice Hockey World Championship, but today we are back for Sundays. I'm Aarnimetsa from PokerStars, and today we are going to do some 18-man turbos. And these are nice structure, and I think these are way more sit and goes than these games are MTTs. So in these games there will be a lot of ICM heavy situations. These games actually on the final table are probably the most ICM heavy structure that PokerStars offers. So ICM is going to be very important in these games. And on the first table we can't calculate ICM out, but still we are going to do some final table mathematics today for sure. And in here, when opponent pots, when we have a flush draw and it's a non-nut flush draw, we can give it up. We don't get that good odds. And in here with pocket nines, it's more than we would like to spend for set mining. But with pocket nines, we are not only set mining. Pocket nines will have some solid showdown equity in itself. And when both of our opponents check, then we are trying to just calculate in our mind that what's the maximum, what's the way that we are getting maximum out of these guys. And when there's an ace on the flop, it should be quite easy on a 3-bet flop. But we got zero value there. And I thought today it might be interesting to go for the low end mid stakes or low and micro stakes. I don't know what they are. Because I think the highest 18 player turbos that regularly run are $100 games. But these $15 games are probably the first games that these games are going to be way tougher. So we should have a pretty good idea on how these different games work from 1.5s to $15 games. And I think we will see quite a few changes how the players are improving. And hello there, Miss Povis, and thanks Kauris for saying when you could see the when our stream went online, and hello to Danita as well. In these situations with 7-9 suited, it's actually probably not going to be that good of a call even. So that was a lapse of judgment. I think it's going to be slightly plus EV, but it's going to be pretty loose call, a pretty loose over limp after this one limper still. And Danita has been tried adding a few 18 mens to add extra volume when I was playing 45 men, didn't go well though. It's going to be that these games are going to play pretty differently to 45 men's. So these are probably easier games to add if you are playing 9 max games, because these are going to have more in common with the mathematics. In here, if the 6-8 would be suited, I think it would be a good call, because we are getting some insane pot odds like greater than 1 to 7 if we are calling there. But I think with offsuit 6-8 there are so few flops that we can hit profitably. So like there are only two paired or trips that we like, or open-ended straight draws. So rather just save the 30 chips. And good evening to Deja as well. And Kauris asks that when are antes coming the first round of the 18 men's. Yeah, like you can see in these games right now, there are antes right from the start. And when there are antes, our adjustments will be that we are going to steal a lot more. So these games are going to be an exercise on stealing, and we are also trying to trying to defend more. But when we are having unknown opponents, I probably giving them a bit of a tighter range that they are stealing from cutoff or button. So like something like queen 8 off, queen 9 off, we are getting probably more than our pot odds, but without position it's just going to be so hard to get value when we hit, and also it's going to, we are going to get dominated by a lot by an unknown player opening from the button. So I think that's going to be something to take into account. Like not only look on your own cards when you are thinking about should I defend this or should I three bet this, but also think about the opponent's range. That what kind of range does the opponent's range look like? What kind of hands there will be that will dominate you? What kind of hands there will be that we will dominate? And when we have more information on our opponents, then we can go for some more exploitative plays. But like when we have something like 38 hands or 50 hands on someone and they haven't been like completely wild or completely loose players playing every second hand, then there is not a lot that we know about our opponents, and then it's going to be only on what's going to be our standard lines until we have information to adjust from the standard line. And Danita said pretty well there that that's something that I suggest for a lot of players, that when you are learning a structure, when you are learning a single structure, try playing only that structure when you are learning it, and only after you have learned how to beat it really well, then you can add it to the sessions on the games that you already know. And actually, it's going to be quite funny because I think that the players are looking pretty similar on every table from 1.5 to 15s. And I'm surprised that I played these games a lot when I was going for the Supernova for the first time. I don't even remember how far it was. Something like 3 years ago. Now when I'm looking at the lobby of a $15 18 man, that I see only one player, and I think this guy is I know from somewhere. But it seems to be quite an awesome game, but I think that someone that has recently played these games would probably disagree with me how good that game looks like, and will probably disagree a lot with me. And these games are also going to be like MTTs are usually going to be, that the first table you are playing, it might look like, wow, this is a great table. That that this is going to be a great game, and then when we are in the final table, these structures, these pretty much concentrate the better players to the final table, and the final table might look like, what do I play against anything else but regs here? So it's going to be important in these games to also try to see on advantage on the how you can get advantage on the random players when you are still having them on your table. So there will be some situations that I will overlimp something, or I will isolate someone with less than a premium holding to just play with the worst players on the table. Like if I'm only folding every hand except premiums, I can't then use my edge on the other players that are leaking chips early on in the game. So I'm advocating for a more aggressive strategy than the general strategy that the regs will pretty much use in these games. And if you have any questions, comments, anything, there is our chat on up there. And I'm also watching for the Twitch chat as well, but I have a limited amount of space on my screen, so Something has to give. At the 25 to 50 level, I'm going to lower my opening sizing a lot. And Jack 10 suited, it's probably one of the most undervalued cards or undervalued hands. I think players are quite good at valuing hands they are that have like an ace, and they are probably overvaluing hands with an ace. But something like Jack 10 suited, it's going to be actually a hand that plays pretty well. In here we are having two overcards and we are having a flush draw, and there is actually pretty sizable amount already in the pot. So even if our flush draw is alive, we are going to have a good hand there. And even if our flush draw isn't alive, it's not going to be completely horrible. We are still having 20% ish there, because then we are having pretty much 6 outs on our opponent. So we are not going to have a horrible situation, even though we require something like 37% ish against our opponent. Like even the catastrophe situation will have something like 20 to 25% for us. And the good situations are going to be, at least, of course the best situation is that our opponent just bet folds, but it's going to happen pretty rarely. And I think Miss Pois has been a new member of our site that I actually don't remember the nickname before. If this would have been suited, I think this would be a good defend, but I don't think that, especially when this guy got already in the pot. It might be, actually. Mm, we are still having top pair, top kicker. I think that we are going to have so much showdown value, and we don't want to get raised out of our hand. And in here, this is more sucky. I think like this guy can also bet for value for worse two pair hands. So there are not only straights or wow. That's pretty interesting to see that our opponent turned the pocket nines into a complete bluff. Of course, he doesn't have a lot of showdown value because there are so many high cards on the flop, and it's actually probably pretty good for our opponent to turn the pocket nines into a bluff. 1 to 5 pocket odds, pot odds, not pocket odds. We are having decent amount of chips against these players, and these players are exactly the players that we want to play against. That these guys look like they wanna play every second hand. That's fine for us. Usually, the more hands players play, the more opportunities they will have to leak chips to us. So even though the price wasn't completely right, I would have preferred to pay less with the 10-8 suited. It's going to be exactly against the players that we want to play pots against, and we are not having even the worst position. Of course, it's going to be in poker that you are in position or you are not in position. But in these cases, there will also be some middle ground in the multi-way pots. And good evening to XXIXX. Yeah, sad day for the game theory students around the world when Mr. Nash has died in a car accident, I think. And in here, with the top pair against the really short stacked player that has played a lot of hands, we are going to call. It's going to be that I think that against the short stack player, they are going to get the money in with the worse aces, some kings, like we seen in that hand. So In these situations, it would be slightly interesting if there would be a bit of a shorter stack. And Yuakayara, yeah, that has paid my bills for a while. So I had a question on the Twitch chat on Hi bro, you make a living playing poker. And today I think we are going to aim for something like about 2 hours. So we are going to add some tables up to, let's say 2210, and then we'll stop adding tables. And the stats for myself are looking funny and wonky on pretty much every table, but it's just like you shouldn't be taking too much into account on your own stats, because they are going to be a product on what kind of situations you have had. Like if you are having a good situations on the tables, if you are dealt good cards, usually your stats are looking to be more aggressive, and but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the own stats look like that much. I just noticed because they are going to be quite interesting compared to what they usually are. Usually the stats are going to be more aggressive and less about the calling side of it. But you'll see that there will be a lot of variance in the small amount of numbers. But I think like these guys we can already mark that these guys are probably players that we want to play against later on as well. Like if we are having 20 hands and players are playing about 50% of their hands, and they are thinking that it's a good idea. And this sucks so much on the top left table with pocket eights. I would probably have shoved over Lord Lika in here. It's just because the pocket eights are going to play well against this kind of a guy's UTG opening range. But when the other guy pretty much snap shoved on him, I thought that probably this guy will be having a pocket pair there, but that's sometimes things that happen with players that we want to play against. They will show up with hands that we aren't expecting. But so now we are trying to, or now we are approaching the point that we are having about 10 big blinds if we would have folded every hand. Like in the 60 120 level, it will be the level that if you are not gotten any good hands during the first first hands, like I think this Mia Valish has been here for the whole time that we have been here. And if you haven't got any good hands, then you are about 1,200 chips in. And top left, the situation is pretty uncomfortable again. Pretty uncomfortable again because we are getting such a great price. But when there is one guy already all in, there is less that we can if we are getting the pot later on, and there are not that many good flops and good turns and good rivers for us. So rather, and in here, this Wanden's Yelv had been pretty passive before, and now he has opened twice in a row. This is actually going to be, if he wouldn't be 30/8 previously and now opened two hands in a row, I probably would have shoved this king jack off. So it's going to be a it's going to be a situation that if our opponent raises for something like 25% ish and we shove here, then we are going to make a profit pretty much no matter what his calling range will be with the king jack off. But in general, I think that in those situations we are in here in the bottom right. I think it depends on how aggressive this guy would be. If the guy would be a 3-bet machine, we could also limp this kind of a hand. But I think betting here against an unknown will be the higher expected value opportunity for us. And when our hands got a pretty bad equity, we are going to bet. So we are going to turn this hand into a bluff. We don't lose a lot of equity if we need to fold this hand, but we can gain a lot by not getting our opponent. Like, our opponent is not hitting that flop. When he only calls, he's not hitting the ace 7 deuce or ace 6 3 board hard either. So I think we are getting a lot more chips than we are losing when we are betting there, even with our hands that are going to have quite the bad equity. In the top left, because this is the loosest guy and he has been playing like about every second hand that he plays, and like 1 in 3 he plays aggressively. I think these kind of guys are going to, when they are going to limp, they are going to have the weakest hands. So and when he limps, there is a sizable pot. We win like 435 chips. That's nothing to sneeze at, because it's like 1/5 of our stack size, and we are not even among the smallest stacks on that table. Ace 8 off. Because of the average stack sizes, I think that shoving might be a bit better than min raise folding here. This is a hand that if we see all the 5 cards, we are going to get pretty good equity with the ace 8 off. But if we are min raising, we can't be calling this guy's shove. We pretty much need to call these two guys. And if this guy is only 3-betting his absolute top of the range, then it would be more plus EV to min raise. But if he 3-bets something like king queen or something like that he would fold against the shove, then it quickly starts to getting worse for our ace 8 off. So in the top left, we are starting the final table, and we are starting the final table with a bang, because I don't think that this guy will fold anything. And checks will hold. That's a miracle, but when our opponent is also having a check, that means that he's not having a good hand either. And in here our desperation level is probably like desperation level 9. So we are just looking to get any situation that looks even halfway decent and just get our money in. And this is pretty crappy, because on the next hand we are paying so much in antes that we can't even min raise here and hide our stack size a bit. But 9-6 suited will be a plus EV shove, especially when I think that there will, like in these cases, when we are the first one and we are approaching the blinds towards the next hand, we will need to be very aggressive in these situations, or it's the best way to play it, because then there will be money in the blinds. So there will be way more money in the blinds, and the um we will have some extra fold equity against the other guys that might have a good hand here. And if some of these other guys is having the good hand in here, then I think that these guys will fold, and then we are getting more of the dead money that we can fight for in those situations. Unfortunately, our 9-6 suited didn't win that pot, but in the first final table we are going for the chip lead. No, we are not going for the chip lead, but we are going to be pretty solid chip second in here. Queen 5 suited would have been a shove, unopened pretty easily, but even with one limp, because this is kind of a borderline hand that we could shove here, and there are not that many other options because there are so much antes in play, and we are the players, especially on the blinds that are most likely to call, are so short stacked. Against the limper and with the antes, we can go for shoves even with a higher stack size. In here at the top right, we are going to shove it if it comes to us. It's going to be a great hand to shove. And in here we are trying to exploit these guys by min raising a lot and trying to just steal their blinds. And their options will be either they might be flatting and then they are out of position playing for probably a slightly larger pot than they would prefer, or then they can just fold. That will increase our stack size, or when they are playing back they can also 3-bet, and depends on our range, or it depends on what kind of players we have on how much we can open. This 9-7 suited, it's more about checking like how aggressive these guys want to play against me. If they don't want to play aggressive against me, then it's going to be a clear-cut situation what will happen here, and I'm going to just take their chips. If they will let me take their chips, then I'll take them. They will have a good home here. And we are getting another final table. Not a great stack situation, but we are alive. I think these games are becoming, or after the antes have been introduced, I think these games are a bit quicker because both of these games are now in the final table with the 80/160. And in here I shoved the pocket threes. I think that against a guy that has been aggressive since we have been short-handed in the tables, and we are having a hand like pocket threes is going to be a solid hand against anything else, but and now I'm trying to get a situation on how am I going to get most money in. And I think we got it. Then just hope that he doesn't have a queen 8, a queen 9. Doesn't matter. We are still having 6 outs and 9 outs for, or 7 outs and 10 outs for a full house. So it doesn't matter. We had outs on the flop. 35%, so. And with pocket 8s against this guy, we are going to get it all in, so it's going to be a question that is this a snap shove or if it's an insta shove. And I prefer the faster option. Unfortunately, we didn't run that well in there, and even though there are ICM implications in there that we don't want to play against the biggest stack, I think that our hand is just going to be way too good there, and there is still an opportunity for our opponent to fold, especially against another big stack. So when we are shoving ourselves, we don't know if we are going to get an all-in situation or if we are going to just get the blinds and the steal amount. So So there are not going to be as tight ICM restrictions for our strategy when we are the ones doing the shoving and when we are thinking that we will have fold equity on our opponents. But that's going to be something that when we are on the final table, we don't want to get it against the we don't want to get it against the bigger stacks when we are having a big stack ourselves. So that's something that we don't prefer, but sometimes it's unavoidable. So, and when it's unavoidable, then we just can't avoid it, and then we are getting the money in. So thus far we have had 3 games that have ended, 2 of them in the final table, but no monies yet. And in these games, I think the $15 games are going to be easiest to explain price pool wise, because it's going to be that the winner gets 100 $100, second gets $75, third gets $50, and the fourth one gets $25. So it's always going to increase by the same amount. Same amount what you are getting. And winner in these games is going to get something like close to 7 buy-ins. And Danita asks that how swingy do you think that these games are? Somewhere in between 9 max and 45 men. Exactly. The structure, because the price structure is going to be more flat than on pretty much any other. It's going to be so flat that it's going to be flatter than any other sit and go structure. Probably outside of 50-50s. So it's going to be less swingy than the amount of players would make it look like, but it's still going to be more swingy. I think it's going to be closer to 9 max, something like when 6 max sit and goes and 9 max sit and goes are having about 1.6 buy-ins as the standard deviation. The standard deviation for these 18 players, it's about 2 or 2.1 buy-ins per game, and 50-50s are at 1.2, and heads-up sit and goes are at exactly 1. And I think 45 mans are closer to 3, and if we are looking at 180 player games, they're going to be at about 5.6 buy-ins per game for their standard deviation. So these games are going to be quite close to the swinginess of 9 max sit and goes. You can get some idea if you are looking at our forum on my $50 to $5,000 project, because there I played 18 player, 45 player, and 180 player games. So there are a lot of games that you can pretty much see for yourself how does the how do the how do the graphs look like for the different games for a winning player. In here we are going for broke when our opponent bets, and we are trying to think about how do we get the most money in so that we are getting it in good. And this king pretty much sucks, but when our opponent checks the turn, we know that we are having the best queen. We know that our opponent is not having a king. We pretty much know that our opponent is having the queen. So we are value betting higher than usual, because our opponent, pretty much all the hands that make sense are going to be queens. And when those hands that make sense are going to be queens, we can pretty much target our value betting for how much do we think that the queen or a second pair will pay their value for us. And he got pocket tens, like it's going to be weaker than the worst queen, but not a lot weaker than that. But I think that's going to be an example on a hand on where we can assign a really tight range on our opponent based on his actions from pre-flop to flop to turn. And probably against that kind of a player, actually when he re-raises the pocket tens there, I think that we can assign a label here that says that we want to play against this player later on. I think I think he or she will be an awesome player to play against later on, because re-raising pocket tens is probably going to be the worst equity option you can do with pocket tens there. Like pocket tens they are going to have decent equity. Pocket tens are going to have decent showdown equity, and those are going to play pretty well if I'm going for multiple barrels as bluffs, and you can also pick up the pot later on if there something like king comes there. So when he raises the flop but then checks the turn, that's probably, at least I can't imagine worse way to play pocket tens there. Like flat call pre-flop, then on the flop when there is overcard, raise raise a tight looking player, and then when there will be another overcard, then check. Not like first turn the hand into a bluff, and then when you would have the better option to bluff your hand, then stop. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make any sense. In here, because it's a limped pot, I'm trying to get some more value. More value by betting myself. I think in a limped pot we are going to get our opponents to bet less against ourselves, but I think that we are going to get 2 or 3 streets of value out of something like a jack or a queen, or like we are going to get value out of gut shots and weaker pairs that our opponents have. So just bet ourselves and try to get some money in. And Tanita, what would be the main thing to focus on adjusting when going from 9 max to 18 man? I think that the 5 to 6 handed play on the final table will be the most important adjustment. And it's this coaching is going to suck for a variety of reasons, but the main reason is that we haven't gotten far enough to get to the most important points for 9 max player. Like we can in the if you are comparing if you are comparing on how much do you want to take risks, we can take more risks when we are not on the final table. Not way more risk, but we can take somewhat more risks. So we are more likely to take some flips when there are enough dead money in the pot and getting into some more risky situations. But these games will be quite insane when there are 6 to 5 people remaining, because the ICM effects are going to be so strong that you will need to be considerably tighter than you would need to be in a 9 max game. Like in 18 player games there will regularly be situations that it will be plus EV for you to fold pocket kings or pocket queens. It will be a regular occurrence in, let's say, if we are playing 100 of these games, we will have 1 or 2 situations that we need to at least fold pocket queens, and we might even have a situation that we would need to fold pocket aces. In here, if we would have opponents that are folding way too much, then I would be playing queen 3 suited. Something like queen 8 suited would still be a solid open here. Kauris, I have tried to get the mellow wallpaper, and the whole blue has been probably the most yellow or most mellow wallpaper that I have had. So, and in here it's also there are some additions for streaming, so that I have the streaming area marked in this wallpaper. So, but I'm trying to usually get the. And in here, like we are getting something like a really small piece of my desktop space in here, so it shouldn't be that bad. And we are having Schnappi, the friendly crocodile lore. And against our friendly crocodile, we are thinking. We are thinking about how to get more money in, but when he click back 4 bets, I think that he will have some worse hands that he can click back 4 bet, and we need to be like 1 in 5. We need to be correct in. No, it's closer to 1 in 4. 1 in 4 probably with ICM thinking taken into account, so. Horrible situation. Now I look like a genius, but I could have looked like a fool as well there. Like my opponent first, click back, raises. When I 3-bet small, then he insta click bet 4 bets. And Kauris, maybe yellow or orange is better. No, it won't be. Yellow or orange are going to be pretty horrible. Horrible in my opinion for having a calm desktop background. And Greenpop87, hi, what do you think is the best way to grind your bankroll when you are having a small bankroll? Play sit and go MTTs or cash game. I'm probably a bit biased here, but I'm saying that probably one of the best options will be to grind it up with the low stakes multi-table sit and goes. I think those are going to be among the best options, because there are going to be small rake, and especially small rake compared to the edge that can be had in those games. And the first buy-in levels that it starts, they are going to be like 10 cents, 25 cents, 50 cents. So there will be a lot of small buy-in games. Like on cash games, the NL2 is the smallest level. I think that the 25-cent MTT sit and goes are going to get good at a pretty comparable bankroll level. And something like 3 years ago, I did a project that has I have posted on our English site, is $50 to $5,000 in 2 weeks. And in this project that we can see as I said, that it's going to be a big ass project on how to grind bankroll from $50. And during this project I played mostly MTT sit and goes. And I think that should be quite an educational idea. And I didn't do it in 2 weeks. It took me, I think, 56 playing days to go from $50 to 5,000. So and Teija is worried that we are getting decorating tips from our viewers. You can see that this room is going to be pretty horrible to decorate because there are going to be walls sliding on every possible direction. When we open from UTG, this is going to be the worst hand that I'm opening from UTG. We are going to get raised against a guy that's loose passive. So against a loose passive guy that re-raises against an UTG opener, I want nothing to do with that pot anymore with the bottom of my range. Yeah, they found the link pretty well. That's going to be pretty good. But that's something that you might want to read. And I think on our forum there are multiple projects on starting a grinding with a small bankroll in mind. And I think that there are success stories with pretty much everything. And when I did that project, there was no 50-cent 9max, no 50-cent 9max turbos, but I think those are going to be a viable game to get your bankroll up as well. When we are having a 5 big blind shove before us, then even with a 20-ish big blind stack, we are going to just get it in. Even though when we check, we are going to pretty much give it up. And in here, this is going to be slightly exploitative, but I think that we want to get this guy in. So if we are calling, we are going to get that guy in way more often. He 3-bets me, and then he 3-bet pre-flop pretty sizably. And then it's up to me to try to find out what part of his range will be aces, and I think that there will be enough weaker pocket pairs and not only aces. But unfortunately there will be an ace. Like I thought that if he 3-bets from pocket nines upwards and there will be one ace as a dead card, that there should be at least one third of those hands that our opponent will be in that situation that he will have a pocket pair and not an ace. Like if there is something like he 3-bets with ace queen plus and ace jack suited plus, and like ace jack suited plus is going to be somewhere around. Of course there will be also aces. So there will be exactly the same pocket pair than I had will be one combination. The better pocket pairs there will be 3 combinations, so 3 combinations I lose against because there's already one ace, and then there will be 24 combinations of pairs that I'm not losing against. Let's do a quick note here. So my presumptions are that opponent 3-bets with a range. Ace jack suited plus ace queen plus. We hold kings, flop comes ace xx. We are not that interested, and ace and two small cards. And those smaller cards and nines are going to be important in the regards that how many combinations our opponent can have. Like with ace jack suited, there will be three combinations each, like three combinations of ace king suited, three combinations of. Actually, there won't be three combinations of ace king suited. There will be only one combination of ace king suited. Because we are holding two kings that will make one ace king suited, and there will be one ace on the board that's part of one else ace king suited. Three combos. And then on the we are going to lose to every one of those. On pocket pairs, we tie against and then there will be and then about the offsuit hands. How many offsuit hands will there be if we are holding one king? There will be 12 regularly, but if we are having one ace and our hands blocked the ace king suited because we had a different kind of hand. So crap. This is a nasty situation because there are two limpers. I think that when I'm isolating here, I can get away with isolating with a pretty small sizing because of our effective stack size. And I think this should be pretty profitable because if players are playing against me, they still need to risk pretty much their whole stack. Yep. So against unsuited hands, how many combos there will be? Why I'm sitting out? I don't have the beeps on, apparently, on stars, so I missed one hand here. Luckily it's on the $1.5 game. So on regular there are 12 different combos of ace king off, but when there is one ace missing, there will only be 9 combos. We lose against. So we lose against 18, 21, 27, 28 combos. And in here we can see that even if our opponent doesn't shove his pocket nines through pocket queens every time, even if he shoves them like 2/3 of the time, it's going to be profitable. Like we needed. And like here is a pretty top of the napkin calculation on how do we think about combos in a certain situation, and how many combos do we have, how many combos do our opponent have. And like I tried to get pretty quickly in my mind that we need to have, actually this is better than I thought that we are against, I thought that we are only having 1/3 of combos, or our opponent will only have 1/3 of combos of those hands that are pocket pairs and not aces that we win. But it's actually even better than that. Let's get some more tables, because our tables are, we are missing some tables. Kauris, queens and jacks are going. We are requiring the same 27% is. That's about pot odds. Like he shoved 800 and some chips on 1,700 chip pot. So we are requiring about. Let's get the. Uh, Opponent shoves 25% pot odds. Add some ICM, and then we are getting to the hat estimate. Or this is what I call the Stetson Harrison estimation. So we are getting a number out of our Stetson on that we require about 2% more for ICM on the first table. And Danita, don't you think that the opponents will check the pairs sometimes though? I think that they will check the pairs sometimes, but I don't think that they will check the pairs that often, because they are still having only only half the pot left. So I think that they are going to be pretty likely to bluff in that situation with those pocket pairs. So I don't think that our opponents. I don't think that our opponents will. In here, we are getting great pot odds, even against this guy. Like, if we are getting less than 20% pot odds because of all the antes, I think it's going to be profitable, because when we are hitting a flush draw here, it's going to be the nut flush draw. So even though we need to fold a lot, I think it's going to be profitable, even against the UTG Open with those pot odds. But then the reason that I walk through the combos is that if we are losing the 28 combos, we are only requiring in that spot that he'll have somewhere around 10 combos of pocket pairs that he shoves. So even if he shoves only about 40% of the time, we are going to make profit with the call. I'm adding some more tables that we are having some more fun on when we are at the later stages. So there will be total of 8 tables that I'm going to be playing, so please bear with me because it might take some concentration out of the tables that you can see on the stream. But I think that it's going to be better for the stream that we are going to get more tables at the end of the session. And the first table that I got off screen, we are having pocket jacks, and there is an opponent's or the flop comes with king and a queen, so not a great opportunity, not a great opportunity. And one guy hit a set on the river and didn't bet it at any point. That's also something that you can do pretty sizable mistakes on. That if you are not value betting enough when you are hitting your good hands, you are not probably making that much money on those strong hands. I'll need to keep my eye out for this top left corner, because I have no time bank there and it's on the final table already. In here, this guy was the raiser. Let's check it to him. Even though this is a board that we don't like giving free cards that much, but I think that this guy will bet pretty often when he's the first raiser. And we didn't want to see any hearts. I still think that with ace-jack we are having the better hand. And on the river we are just check folding. We don't want anything to do with that pot anymore. So there is the final table that had opened. I'm trying to get those to the same screen that I'm using. I'm using a slightly larger screen than what I'm sharing with you, so there is plenty of room outside of the screen for me to follow. This pretty much sucks that we haven't had like any good shove spots on the final table yet, so we have been king of nits on the top left table. I think it will fix itself in the long run, but right now we can't make actions happen. Like on every spot we are having a range. We are having like the range of profitable options for us. And if we are having a hand that's profitable for us to play, then we'll play. But if we don't have, if we are not inside the range of profitability, we can't just be making things happen. So we'll be patient. Like I think Ville Nieminen has said, we are going to play hospital hockey. We need to be very patient. So we are playing hospital poker here and we are being very patient. We got a profitable set mining opportunity, but then we got 3-bet. This is one reason that when we are not closing the action, that we want to have, for set mining, we want to have like at least 20 times as much to win, because we don't get to set mine cheaply at every time that we are we call. So when it's not guaranteed, then we can't go. Like, we are hitting set 1 in 8 point half times, so it's like 11 point something percent that we hit a set. But we can't go for those pot odds because we, first of all, set is not invulnerable. There will be straights and there will be bigger sets and there will be flushes and everything that can win your set, so you don't even win every time that you are having the set. And also, we don't get to set mine every time because there can be an opponent that bets behind us. And also, there's going to be the third, that even though if we are having like, if we need to call 80, we are having 1600 chips left. It's not going to be all the time that we are going to get the 1600 chips, so we'll need to take those into account and have some more safety buffer. I think safety buffer would be a good word. This is enticing to call. We are getting so many good draws, but I think our stack size is going to be too low for that. Now there is a more quiet time than there's just no hands that are happening, so let's just chill out. This is the stress of multi-tabling 8 tables at once. And now we are on the bubble, so the bubble play is going to be pretty much the most important phase of the game. And I think that when we are going to be so much behind everyone else, we are needing to take more risks in here. And pocket eights, we would have actually called pretty much anyone here. And when it comes to us unopened, this is a great spot for us. A great spot. Oh well, it still was a great spot. I don't think that our opponents will fold those kind of a hands, so. Still hunting for the first cash for today. Only 7 shots remaining. I think when he opens for about 6 big blinds, we are going to be the last one. With 5 big blinds, we'll pretty much need to call. In here, I'm betting small here. I think that we are getting slightly more by betting small here. I think we are getting our opponents to call with something like overcards here. Here still. We could have also checked to give our opponents opportunities to catch something. And we are way ahead of our opponent again, but we don't get the pot. Well, at least we got half the pot. I don't know, should we now start crying that we are never lucky? We have lost 2 flips in a row. And flips in this case means hands that we had like 70% pre-flop. It happens, it's poker. I think Teija has sometimes said that he could play, or she could play something like probably 10 tables and polish her nails at the same time. I don't know, should we try to go for challenges on what else you can do while playing a certain amount of tables? Because I don't remember when it has been this calm. And Danita, yeah, I know the feeling. It happens even when you are closer to 20 tables, that you might have there like some spot that you have done all of your actions, there is nothing to do, and then it comes like beep 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 beep, and you are clicking at all the spots you need to click like a madman after a while. When we shove ace-9 suited, we are really afraid when any single player calls it, because we are going to get screwed big against pretty much any hand that our opponents will call a UTG Open, and especially when they are at the middle positions. Yeah, that's also going to be it, that when nothing happens for a while, you start to look at your computer and think about, is something broken? Does my internet work? But in this case, I know my internet works. There just are no actions for me to do. And there is one very good reg on the tables. So that's not going to be that great for that $15 game. I still think it would be probably a good game for what I know. And this is probably one of the worst spots that we are having a very good reg on our in position compared to us. So sucks, but it happens. We'll need to just play with whatever we are gotten and trying to do the most plus EV options there. And like in this game, there will be some challenges that there will be a reg that we probably can steal a bit too much, and then there is going to be a reg that will probably make our life a bit harder, and then all the players that we want to play against we are in position compared to them, but if they are not aggressive, we can't use our position that much for our advantage. And there is the comment on PokerStars on the Twitch chat. Yeah, that's how it feels sometimes. That's how it feels. And in here, King Jack off wins against aces, pre-flop all in. These things happen. Neither player played it badly, I think. He min raised, he shoved. They got 17-ish big blinds in. Neither player played it badly, but the player with the worst hand wins. Like usually I try to mark some hands during our session that we can go for the later or post analysis of the games after we have played some, but in here I think most of the situations have been pretty self-evident. In here we could isolate, but I don't think that we are going to get that much value in it, and then we are going to pretty much also get ourselves against a better range. And when the pot is only limped, I like to bet myself to get the pot growing. But we can see in these games that we are having plenty of players that are most likely players that we want to play against a lot. So even at the $15 level, the games might be pretty juicy still. About 1 to 5, a bit less. Like we need 19%, about 21%. I think that we are getting enough without position. We are going to get enough on. But in there, when I'm going to fold, when there is an ace and an 8 on the board, without an ace I think I wouldn't have folded. I think that our opponent just hits the ace way too often in those situations. It sucks that when you are defending with two medium cards and you are hitting your medium pair and then you can't carry on with it. It always feels like wasting money. But I think that it's going to be just the most placebo way to go there. If there would be like king 8 or king 8 deuce, I would have called his bet and gone more for going to showdown. Trying to aim for showdown. I don't think king 10 off would be a profitable hand to shove here, but something like king 10 suited would be. And in here, it's going to be somewhat interesting. Our opponent flat called us and we hit two pairs and our two pairs pretty much suck. But when our opponent flat called, he will hit part of the time he will hit the 10, but I don't think it's going to be that likely. But I am unsure, can I get any value out of this either? This is going to be one of the thinnest values there is. Like, I'm aiming this against like 2 overcards kind of hands. And this was too thin of a value when our opponent had pocket fives that he just called. That was a weird call in a way. Like, our opponent just calls pocket fives in a situation that it would be really plus EV to just chip it in pre-flop. I don't expect to see pocket fives type of hands in those situations pretty much ever. I thought that it will be really unlikely when our opponent just flat calls there. I thought it would be really unlikely for him to have a pocket pair. I thought it would be really unlikely when there are two tens. It will be really unlikely for him to have a 10. And also with the 7, I think that it's going to be below what people are generally flat calling. So I think that our opponent didn't have. I think that my bet was too thin of a value right now. But I still think that our opponent doesn't have a wide range of hands. That will be the pair of deuces there. But most of his, or all of his hands practically. If they don't beat a pair of deuces, they will have 6 cleanouts. And if they have 6 cleanouts, then it's going to be that my betting there is also denying our opponent's equity if they are folding something like queen jack off or king jack off or something like that. And these are going to be the final 4 games of today. I hope that we are getting some interesting situations out of these. Hasn't been going that well thus far, though. Actually, on the king deuce hand, I'm still thinking that if it's a profitable bet or not. And it's not about getting value from the top part of our opponent's range. It's more about denying him equity. And for that, probably a better way wouldn't be to bet small, it would be to shove, to deny him equity. Equity there rather than to try to get thin value. Actually, getting thin value there, it's probably the stupidest reason. The stupidest reason to bet there, so sometimes I do stupid as well. I try to own up to it though when I notice that I'm doing something stupid on the table. And when we are playing something like 1000 hands, there will be stupid. And I'm trying to get rid of the stupid in my game plan as much as possible, but it's an evil rodent. It's like you can't get rid of stupid in your games easily. You need some kind of a stupid exterminator or something. Something to get rid of all the stupid stuff you can do in a certain spot. Ace 9 off. It's going to be, with these antes, it's going to be a way profitable shove. And it's something on poker that you don't need to be good right now. What matters in poker is how quickly you are improving. And are you improving in poker every day? If you are improving quickly and improving in poker every day, then you are going to get good. And when you are going to get good, then you are going to beat these games. Especially the MTT sit and goes are probably going to be among the easiest games to beat, because there will be so many opportunities, or the difference between the best players and how profitable the games can be, the difference on how much you can make per game is going to be high enough. It's going to be high enough for these to be really profitable. And now there is more blue, so we are back at breaking Kauris. We hope that we are not going to get more blue in there quickly. White steel, if he's that tight, I'm going to give him a lot of credit. So I'm going to give him a lot of credit and fold that myself. Deuce 6 off. I think this is going to be way too weak because we would pretty much need to call this guy if we wanna open, so let's just... I would be still opening something like top 50% here, but Deuce 6 off is going to be among the worst hands possible that we can get. So are we having that much of a delay here that Kauris is only now trying to seeing more blue? In here, I think that against a general opponent, we can pretty much raise any two cards. I think that people will fold too much still. And of course, today it hasn't worked the time, so... So sometimes these days are hard, when no move works like it should work. This would have been a spot that I would have opened King 4 off. It's like the top 50% of hands, and it's going to be... It's not going to be solid, but I think it's going to be good enough. I think we are going to see a really good value hand from Miguel here. This should be a pretty easy situation for the lucky as well. He should call with something like pocket tens plus and fold everything else. King 8. This is going to be an edge bet. I wouldn't bet any weaker hands here as a steal. So this will be the absolute weakest hand I would bet here. I think that even if opponents are calling, this is going to be strong enough on different kind of flops for it to be profitable. Let's try to fish for another pot. Now we are having a better hand, and we can call this guy if he shoves the Croatian. And the post-flop playability is also better because there are more players that can be in position. This is actually pretty crappy now because if Lucky shoves, then we probably can't be calling him. When he flat calls, if he bets here, I'm going to go for I would have been going to go for a spooey shove on the flop because I think that he would be full of crap most of the time if he bets. And Danitas says that today's session has been pretty much like my experience with Aarnimetsa so far. Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is hard. Hard on the tables. Hard on the tables to craft any edge. I think we have been quite unlucky in that when we had gotten our money in good, we have lost the pot, and most of the other times we have just gotten our money in against the dominating hands. So if he bets small, we are going to flat call this. I think it's going to be the best equity option here. And it would be the one that our opponent will have the hardest time playing against. Now I'm just thinking that can we get our opponent out of enough of his hands if we shove here? Probably not. Even though with an open-ender, if I would have had a king 10 off there, I would have shoved no matter what, but when our opponent had a king 6 off, with a king 6 off, I think that it's going to... With the king 6 off, because we are drawing to the idiot end of the straight, I think it's going to be harder to make our opponent fold. And with 10, we are also having one more overcard if our opponent is having something like a 9 or 8, so we are having more equity in that regard as well. But that's like one of the most drawy flops ever on the 7-8 with one flush draw, 7-8-9 with one flush draw. So even though we got a draw ourselves, it still wasn't that great, especially when our opponent bet pretty sizably. One table left. Today I must say this has been one of the most horrible coaching sessions ever. I don't even remember when has been the last time that I wouldn't have cashed at least once during a session. And now today we are having 0 cashes so far. And the last game that we are having here is going to be $1.5 game, so... Oh well. I think we can win 10 bucks here. No, 9.52 if we are winning this game. So you can see the difference in rake in that in $15 game, you even post rake you are still fighting for a $100 main prize, and on 1.5s you are only fighting for the $9.5. So comparatively, the high point is, or to win this game is 5% less than winning the $15 game. If there are any questions, now it's a perfect time to ask any questions because there is not a lot of happening on the tables. We can't be calling here with 7-9 suited. I think that if we are facing this kind of situation, our range would be something like pocket nines and higher. Higher in here. I think that even ace king suited might be too weak because of the ICM implications. This is going to be a shove if it comes to us unopened or if it comes to us limped. I think this... Actually, this is not a shove, but could this be a profitable min raise? I think it could be if it comes to us unopened. Not a profitable shove, but a profitable min raise for sure. Now it's going to be quite easy. Even easier. And sometimes it seems like I'm playing some stupid hands, like I'm playing something like I'm discussing about playing something like 8-5 suited. It's not that I don't understand that 8-5 suited, it's not a great hand. It's more likely that I'm thinking about the situation on the table and how the other players are generally reacting to playing the hand. And I think that's going to be pretty much the one of the hardest parts in poker is to go from just looking at your own hand to trying to see what kind of situation you are having in the table. And playing according to that and trying to abuse your opponents and what they are generally doing. Generally doing that you can gain an advantage on. In here it's going to be that we are probably going to get through the blinds before they increase, but we would like to get an increase to our stack size. And we would prefer to get it by stealing rather than getting all in against another guy, but we'll see. We'll see what kind of opportunities we get. There's still 1 minute before the blinds increase, so hope they are playing these two hands quickly, because it's going to be way better for us if we are getting through the blinds when the blinds are smaller, and then we can have an opportunity to shove when the blinds are a bit higher. Crap. We are going to get 48-ish% pot odds here. Or we are getting 40%-ish pot odds here. But we are getting about 48% against the opponent's range. Is there going to be more than 8% in ICM? Let's say not. That's a hand to check though. In that situation, if ICM is more than... We'll add to our risk premium more than 8%. Then that is a horrible call. But when we are getting 40% pot odds, then even small pocket pairs might become good calls. And Kauris already voices his opinions that we can't call. I thought differently, so we'll see after this game has ended that was Kauris right or was I right there. I must say that I'm not the most confident in that situation right now. If we would have regs behind, this would be a great spot to shove. But I think in these situations, we are going to be a bit more tighter. Like these guys, when they're the medium stacks, this would be a great spot for us to increase our equity by just shoving pretty close to every hand and let our opponent just fold. But I think in these games we need to be tighter because our opponents are going to be calling us wider than they should. Jack 8 suited, it's going to play so well even against the stupid calls. If we are getting a stupid call, we are going to get pretty rarely dominated, and we are having a flush draw to top it up. We are not going to call a shove here, but we are probably going to make his life harder if he min raises. If he limps, we are going to raise him. We are not going to shove over him, I think. We are going to shove over him if he limps. If he min raises, we are probably going to flat and try to make his life harder post flop. If he shoves, we just fold. Can't do nothing else there with that kind of a hand. If I would need to try to evaluate the pocket threes hand, I think it's something like 0.1 to 0.2. 2% of the prize pool profitable. Ace queen suited, I can't see a situation where we would fold. Ilpokaev asked, why call pocket threes if you think that you are a better player and can get all the chips easier later? Because in these games that even though there would be the easier later option, the option is not going to be that great because the blinds are going to be sizable and there is going to be a limit on how much you can exploit your opponents if you are having a certain kind of a stack size. And especially if I'm having a situation in here that what is the most likely situation that people are going to call too much. If people would be, on the other hand, calling too little, then this would make more sense to not get the monies in that easy. And it's also like we are not risking elimination there. We would have had 5 big blinds left still with our pocket threes if we would have called and lost. So it's not that we are forfeiting our position on the table with the pocket threes call. The main question there is pretty much that when we are having a 16.5 buying price pool, that if we are having a profitable situation, like how much of a profitable situation could we pass in order to play safe? I'm all for playing small ball and trying to grind the small pots and trying to grind our opponents down. But the less chips we have, the less opportunities we are having to uh, having to gain our edge over our opponents. So there is going to be a there's going to be a limit on how much we can get edge over our opponent, and I think when that's compared, and also that we are even with 5 big blinds, we are going to have plus EV situations. But that's a good question, and that's also a good question on if I'm having a table that everyone just folds, then it's going to be different in how much risks I'm willing to take in a certain position, especially if the risks that I'm taking are resulting in my elimination if it goes bad. But at least I tried to explain on the situation that I didn't risk elimination, and I think that it's more profitable than going to fold it. Easy call, easy shove for him. One player loses, I hope it's not me. And it doesn't matter that much, even if we lose. We'll have opportunities later on. If it comes folded to us, we are going to shove. If it doesn't, then we fold. Easy options, easy options. Hmm. Icky situation. I think that with our deuce, this is going to be an unprofitable situation. And we hate to give chips to the largest stack on the table. We absolutely hate it, but if we can't help it, then we are just helpless and giving him chips. This is usually what happens in an 18-man table if there is a large stack and the second stack is larger than the other stacks. We want to be very careful with the larger stack. And when the bubble bursts, then this is going to be way better. I think this 8-6 suited is going to be pretty horrible shove. He should have waited for the next hand. Next hand with the more profitable opportunities. And even if it's better now, there is still a bubble that's ongoing. It's like now we are in a tournament that's 50% slash 33 slash 16%. So now that we are four-handed, it's going to be really close mathematically to the 9-player bubble, 9-player sit and go bubble. But there's one important distinction. Against random players, we don't have that much fold equity that we would have in the 9-max sit and go. And why is that? It's because everyone gets money at this point. People don't want to lose money. And if there is like, well, if I'm folding, I'm going to get money anyway, it makes people fold more. But if it's like, I got money already, now I can take risks and go for the win, the situation is completely different psychologically, even though it's mathematically it could be pretty close. Not just a min cash, we can still win it. As long as we are in it, we can win it. And we didn't have a session of no cashes. That's pretty important as well. I'm trying to hide my stack size a bit, so if he's multi-tabling or doing something else, it's going to be harder for him to see that I'm going to have the shortest possible stack here. Here when I'm min-raising rather than shoving. When I'm shoving, it only shows like 2 buttons for my opponent, and then it's easy for my opponent to see that, whoa, there is a guy all in. Now I need to calculate the all in mathematics rather than. But when it's a min raise, it's like, is my opponent trying to abuse me, and is he trying to get me to call too much? And we are second stack again, so. But now against this guy, we can't shove that wide because he has seen some pretty crappy hands before. And we are back. So this is going to be the final 3-handed on a $1.5 18-player game. Let's see. And now it's going to be a heads up. Well, I don't think there is too much to do here on a heads up against an opponent. I think this is going to still be quite close that do I want to shove this, even though it's not like close to our beloved mathematician Nash's equilibrium. I think it's still going to be, against an average opponent, I think it's going to be pretty close to at least being good. 7 for suited is going to be good for sure. And queen 8 off. I'm doing a hero fold here. It's going to be a complete hero fold. I think that opponent, when they are min raising, they are having a way stronger range than when they are shoving at that point. If he would have shoved, I would have instantly called with the queen 8 off. But when he min raised, and I know that he has been shoving during this final table against me, that I think that it's going to be a situation that our opponent will. And he snap called with king deuce. Not a bad snap call for him. Let's hope to get lucky. No, we didn't, so there is the 1 cash. That was the second place finish. And let's get to take a look at the hand that we marked. So there is one hand today that we marked. Let's open it up in a replayer. Replayer is always prettier, so it's nicer to see hands in here. So there was an opponent that hadn't been playing anything, shoved, and the pot odds here, I thought that it would actually be pretty exactly 40%. And here the question is that how much this is profitable to call, or is it profitable at all? So let's go to consult some Holder Resources calculator on this case. And Kauris 84, stop and go might make sense against an opponent that plays a lot of hands, but I'm just thinking that our opponent in that situation had too strong of a range to go for a stop and go. Like, if I see that, I'm usually thinking that our opponent will have a premium hand that he wouldn't let go, but the stack sizes would be pretty great for a stop and go. So actually, My simulation depth was 3, that it was way too much for a 7-player situation. And when we are looking at here, we are looking at the button shoving for 2.3, so 7.7 big blinds. And if he shoves 39%, then pocket threes would be for profitable for 0.33% of the prize pool. And when the prize pool is like 16.5 big blinds, then it's going to be close to 5% of ROI of a matter to call this or not. And I don't think that our opponent will call that much, but let's look at the range versus hand equities on. Let's see the smallest pocket pairs. Like when do they get profitable? And in here we can see that the pocket threes are getting profitable when our opponent is shoving about 23% of his hands, and pocket fours are going to be they're going to be a no-brainer call, and pocket deuces are going to be a profitable call against a very loose opponent. But in here, when we are thinking about 22.5%, let's see what that looks like. And the range is going to be, I think the range is going to include, it doesn't even include all the pretty cards, like king ten off, queen jack off, bottom of the aces. So I think that this is still going to be, I think the probably what I'm seeing at my opponent at minimum in here would be, what I'm expecting would be something like this, about 30%. And when I'm going for 30%, then the pocket threes are going to be about 0.2% plus EV. So 0.2% plus EV would be about the matter of like 3 to 4% of ROI in the games. So I think I'm going to, I did call pocket threes, and I think I will call pocket threes in the future. It's going to be a call that doesn't make you friends, doesn't feel good because you are almost always flipping. But if there is enough dead money in the pot already, it can be pretty profitable. So I think that's about it for today. Thanks for everybody that chatted and commented here. It's always easier to have some questions to answer, especially if we are playing 8 tables and waiting for 10 seconds for hands to appear. And next week, I think we are going to have a session on Sunday on sit and goes or MTTs. I haven't decided yet. And there will be Wednesday's English session of Pot Limit Omaha by Kyberi, and there will be plenty of Finnish content during next week. So if you are going to sleep, sleep well. And if you are still playing poker, may this be a winning night for you. Bye!